There are 4 separate instances of triple talaq that have been reported in Uttar Pradesh itself. The most horrifying one being a woman burnt alive by her husband and in-laws after she tried to file a complaint against instant triple talaq.
So 10:30 to 11:30 our cabinet expansion will be there, and I think within 2-3 hours I am going to get the final list from the Amit Bhai. So tomorrow the cabinet.
After running the government as a one-man army with over 20 days, Karnataka Chief Minister now says cabinet will be formed tomorrow. Seventeen people have died in a cloudburst in Uttarkashi district of Uttarakhand. Several houses, plots of land that have been washed away. It's a heroic rescue by the Indian Air Force that has been caught on camera in a flooded Jammu. 4 stranded men airlifted after the level of Tawi River increased. A shocking case that's come in with a group of 40 Christian pilgrims attacked on their way to Vellankanni Church in Tamil Nadu. This is part of their annual pilgrimage. The fringe group reportedly attacked them for allegedly spreading religious message. Former Finance Minister Arun Jaitley remains critical at the AIIMS in Delhi. He is on life support. The RBI governor once again reiterates growth is a matter of highest priority currently, something that every policymaker is concerned about. You are with the big story at 5 p.m. I'm Seher Zama. Today we are discussing on what's happened with Zomato, taken aback with the logout protest, and at least 1,900 restaurants across the country, spearheaded by the NRAI, which is the National Restaurants Association of India. They chose to log out of the food aggregator app like Zomato and dine out as well. And this as the association has objected to deep discounts that are being offered on food and drinks by these platforms. The association here says that offers such as Zomato Gold and Infinity Dining have been hurting the restaurant business. The association has called these practices unfair, saying they don't have a problem with delivery per se, but they do have a problem with deep discounting. Now, both the online food aggregating platforms, that is Zomato as well as Dine Out, they have appealed. They've now tried to make peace. They've appealed to their restaurant partners to stop this logout campaign, work towards resolving this issue. The aggregators have promised to optimize revenues for them, improve bottom line of the restaurants.
For me, this offer should continue for customers as we go anywhere in a restaurant. So we are having our own choices in case of foods. So, for example, if we are offered a dish which I like and I want to try another dish, so I will only have the dish which I like, but I will with the 1+1 offer I will also try the dish which I can try in future.
No, I think it should continue because it gives us a lot of opportunity to save our money. Because on Dine Out and Zomato we get offers like one-on-one or discounts on food and everything.
और इसको कंटिन्यू रखना चाहिए क्योंकि इससे बहुत सारे कस्टमर्स को फ़ायदा होता है और वो उसके लिए एक्स्ट्रा पैसा भी पे करते हैं. ऑब्वियसली पहले जोमेटो गोल्ड बाई करना पड़ता है तो एडिशनल पैसा पे करते हैं और वो पैसा एडवांस देने की वजह से अगर उनको ये बेनिफिट मिल रहा है तो उसमें क्या दिक्कत है.
Let's in fact get in more details. We have with us our correspondent Amita. Amita, this is of course going to be a case where customers are now going to be feeling let down. But was there also a case of these platforms such as Zomato going ahead with these deep discounts without consulting with their restaurant partners? Because this was leading to a loss and it led to a massive protest, #logout, which entirely took Zomato by shock.
Well, it seems like that, but when we spoke to restaurant owners and some of the big ones which manage at least 50 restaurants across the country, they told us that this has been going on for a while now, that they've been trying to tell Zomato that this business model is hurting their businesses in turn and it's an unjust practice that was not okay with restaurateurs, and that eventually it would lead to this campaign #logout, and that is what has happened. And in fact, we've been talking to National Restaurateurs Association of India, which is leading this campaign at this point, and they've told us very categorically that the fact that these deep discounts offered to members of Zomato and other applications where you go into a restaurant and you avail offers such as 1+1 and 2+2 is in fact hurting their business. And more than 1,500 restaurants as of today, I've been told, have in fact logged out of Zomato and Dine Out and even Easy Tiger. But the biggest bone of contention they have is with Zomato Gold, because it has about 10,000 odd and more restaurants as partners. Zomato, of course, has told us in a statement that they are in talks with restaurateurs, that they will address their concerns. We've also seen the founder of Zomato put out a series of tweets saying that perhaps at some level they've also made mistakes and that they are willing to resolve this issue. And as we speak, there is a meeting that's going on at this point in Delhi. We understand it will go on till late evening, where NRAI, which is the national body of restaurateurs, is sitting down with aggregators to try and resolve the issue at this point. Apart from that, Dine Out has also,
Okay.
given us a statement saying that they don't believe in deep discounting themselves and that they will be willing to resolve this
Right.
issue.
Okay, stay with us, Amita. While you say that that meeting is taking a look at these issues here, let's get in a voice here from the NRI, which is the National Restaurants Association of India. We have Mr. Riaz Amlani with us. Mr. Amlani, appreciate you being with us. What are the points that you're going to put across here to these platforms such as Zomato? Deep discounts is something that has already pampered and spoilt the customers. So how does one step back from that now?
The restaurant business has been in the business of pampering and spoiling their customers. We don't need an aggregator to tell us how to pamper and spoil our customers. All that is happening is instead of building loyalty towards the brands, we are just driving customers towards discounts, which is not a sustainable model. The whole point was started off when Zomato Gold started off, it was envisaged as a kind of a reward program for the top 1% of the Zomato customer base who went out 4 or 5 times a month as a kind of a reward. But soon, without anybody's consultation, it just turned into a commercial enterprise where anybody can, for paying 1,200 rupees, become a member of Zomato Gold. And restaurants had to give, one-on-one on everything. Anytime, whether it's whether it's Saturday, whether it's Sunday, whether it's a weekday, whether it's peak hours, non-peak hours, the restaurants are armed twisted. So that does not help the ecosystem in any way. All it does is it kind of creates a false illusion.
So you have, Mr. Riaz, you have used that word that the restaurants were arm twisted into agreeing with the terms and conditions of what was being offered to customers under Zomato Gold. Are we going to be looking at what kind of middle ground are we going to be looking at in this? And do you think at some point the government would need to step in as well? There's the Department for Promotion of Industry and Trade, which would need to step in here to resolve this, to protect the rights both of the business of restaurants and the consumers?
It does not require government intervention as of now. Obviously the aggregators thought of a scheme which they thought would help the industry. Clearly, it has not helped the industry. Business has not grown. In fact, it has shrunk. The idea was that we'll get more walk-ins, which has not happened. All we have is people coming in and taking a big bite of the top line and completely destroying the bottom line. So that has not worked. So restaurateurs have gotten off it. Now the ball is in the aggregators' court to come up with models which are sustainable and beneficial to all the stakeholders. The delivery boys, the restaurateurs, the customers, and the aggregators themselves.
Mr. Amlani, stay on with us. We're trying to get in further voices here to speak with us here on this. We also have with us our correspondent Amita, who's been getting us details. Amita, we'd heard some customers' voices here on this as well, that Zomato Gold worked out great for them. But these deep discounts, the very concept of deep discounts at the start of it, would seem unfair. I mean, it's also about eating and eating out beyond what one would think is the cost of the food that you're getting.
Well, that's correct, and that is exactly what restaurateurs have told us. They've been telling us that this is an unjust practice, and hence, from the 14th of August, we saw this hashtag logout campaign, in fact, being voiced out through social media as well. And as of today, we understand that more than 1,500 restaurants have logged out of the platform, and perhaps more will be doing so. But it all depends on what really happens in the meeting today, because we've seen both Zomato and in fact even Dine Out in responses to us specifically say that they are trying to work out the concerns that restaurateurs have, and perhaps a middle ground will be arrived at. But that meeting is going to go on till late evening, and we really have to see what comes out of that meeting today.
Okay. Stay with us. Let's also get in consumer rights activist Mr. Pedro Mishra with us over the phone line as well. Pedro, thanks for being with us. What's your view on this from the consumer's point of view? Is it really going to be hitting wallets if we can't avail of deep discounts through schemes such as Zomato Gold?
See, the business has to be competitive, and we have to follow certain rules of the country and the sentiments of the consumer. So at the end of the day, anybody who is conducting business in India has to look at the Indian consumer and deal with the Indian consumer accordingly. So it will definitely have a kind of a repercussion initially, but at the end of the day, the consumer will always have the choice and the empowerment to make a choice. So it is up to these platforms to, kind of navigate these kind of issues and be sensitive towards the consumer's needs and wishes, because choice is paramount. And today competition has to prevail in a very transparent manner, and has to be credible with full information so that consumers get what they want. So at the end of the day, the platforms cannot just dictate terms to the consumer, or the people who want to conduct business in India cannot always force that they won't conduct the way they want. It has to be conducted in the manner which is acceptable to India and to Indians and to the consumers of India.
No, that is understandable, Mr. Bejon. But the very concept, do you think the very concept of deep discounts, which was started by Zomato, that this was anywhere, anytime, any day discounts, do you think that very concept was fair? Was it something that worked towards the rights? This is not about the rights of the consumer. It is about unnecessary going beyond pampering the consumer and having them eat food which they should be rightfully be paying for at the right price.
That is what I'm saying, that at the end of the day, we have got something called Competition Commission of India, which is supposed to investigate into these kind of unfair trade practices. Now, in India, we have the laws in place, we have the agencies in place, which will protect the consumer at the end of the day. So, if they try to adopt any kind of a deep discount, predatory pricing, ensuring that they upset and disrupt the marketplace to bring in uncompetitive environment in the market, to downgrade or to make the Indian businesses go out of business, it will not work. It will not work. So we have to work as per the good ethical practices in terms of good ethical business conduct in the country.
Right.
So we in India will not tolerate do something which is not in the interest of the consumer. So it has to be in the deep discount. Doesn't mean that you just get the person first and then you start throwing your weight around. No, that can't happen. You have to also explain how you are able to do it.
Right.
And as consumers,
absolutely.
not be able to
Yes, stay with us, stay with us. You're saying something very crucial here, Bijan, but we need to get in a voice of a Zomato user as well. Purvi Kothari with us over the phone line. Purvi, thanks for being with us. Do you think this is a business decision now that has been taken by restaurants to log off of Zomato as the aggregator, the platform? Is this going to be working against customers such as you?
Yeah, definitely. Because I am buying the subscription. I'm paying a price to be able to, try a variety of restaurants and in turn try a variety of food. But then suddenly all that's not going to be there. Because even currently as a user, even with so many options and so many hundreds of restaurants, it used to boil down to, when you put filters like area and all of those things, it was anyway, not too many. But even with that gone, then there's no purpose of even having the subscription or even using it. So it's definitely, it's not going to be of any use now. It's like that. It's just yeah, because the whole thing is built
All
on
right. So
variety.
this is of course with respect to a service. Yes, Zomato Gold is a subscription that has been paid for already, and suddenly you have restaurants pulling out of it here. Riaz, would you want to respond here to this? At this point, while restaurants and Zomato are still working on ways to reach middle ground and perhaps to kickstart Zomato Gold again, consumers are suffering. It's not just a question of getting unreasonably cheap food. It's a question of having paid for that service of Zomato Gold, and now you don't have those restaurants on the list.
Well, I completely sympathize with the customer. At the end of the day, the customer will suffer. It is unfortunate, but what we have to bear in mind that Zomato is collecting the subscription fees from the customer and not passing on a single rupee to the restaurant, who is actually funding this entire scheme. Right? So it is up to Zomato to come up with a scheme that works for the customer, it works for the aggregator, and works for the restaurateur. Just, we are all stakeholders in this, and if it can only work for one, inevitably, the music will stop. And that's exactly what it has happened. Restaurants have decided that they will not keep lining the pockets of aggregators at their own expense. Now, if Zomato has created this, for us, restaurateurs on our part are sympathetic towards the customer, and if somebody walks into one of my restaurants, they are offered a special discount and explain to them that this is not part of Zomato Gold, but the restaurant will offer that discount anyway as a gesture from the restaurant. Right? So, but at the end of the day, it is the aggregator.
So what is this middle ground that we're looking at? If you could help us understand, are we looking at a particular figure that the restaurants are working for? There's a meeting which is currently on as we speak. Is there a particular figure of what qualifies deep discount? What is this middle ground that we're looking at then?
So, absolutely. So aggregators, what they do well is they actually, by having this big database, can help customers discover their new favorite restaurant, right? The idea, and they can create certain kind of promotions and offers where a customer is driven to a restaurant for the first time, either through price or through discounts, which are reasonable. The customer goes and discovers this restaurant. And then if the customer likes it, he can keep going back to it. And then hopefully, sees value in paying full price for it. But the discounts cannot be all the time, anytime. Right? They either are in a non-peak kind of a situation, or they are in a time-bound situation, and of course they are more rational. Right? And then everybody wins because the restaurant gets an additional customer base. The customers get to try out a restaurant at a lower cost, and the aggregator fulfills its purpose, which we feel is the middle ground. But just one person winning and everybody else losing doesn't make any sense.
Got it. That's right. Mr. Pedro Mishra, do you think Zomato, of course, has issued this apology to the restaurant saying, please stop your protest logout campaign. We're going to be working things out again. We made a mistake. But how about addressing the consumers as well? Zomato was hit with the logout campaign. It reached out to the restaurants. It apologized to the restaurants. It hasn't addressed the concern yet of consumers. We have one such Zomato user, Purvi, speaking to us saying that Zomato Gold is a subscription that they've already paid for. And now there are about 1,900 restaurants which are not part of that scheme.
This is what I always say, that at the end of the day, the service provider has to understand that it is the consumer which is paying. There's nothing called a discount, let me tell you that. the consumer always pays that which is the value for money. So at the end of the day, nobody conducts business at a loss. There is always some dimension to it that when they are doing deep discount, they are looking at certain data which will actually generate revenue for them. So there is a revenue generation when the consumer pays the buck. So at the end of the day, they first have to think, other than the service providers, the restaurants, for example, they have to also give the compensation to the consumer instead of we consumers running to the court for
absolutely. So do you think Zomato should be refunding customers here as well? And does this work within the guidelines, the fresh guidelines that have come in with the new Consumer Protection Act, which was just passed in Parliament, guidelines on e-commerce to protect the rights of customers?
So this is exactly what we are saying, that the guidelines have to come. We have to make sure that the regulator plays a role, and that is why we are talking about, the new Consumer Protection Act is going to come into force now very soon, where all these aggregators, all these e-commerce people are also going to get into the loop of the consumer protection. But apart from, I'm saying, consumers running to the court to claim compensation, these providers have to be compelled to see these aggregators that they pay compensation if they are unable to deliver something which they have promised. And there has to be immediate refund given to the consumer.
That's right. So Zomato Gold subscribers need to be refunded irrespective of when Zomato would come up with a solution. Let's also get in one more Zomato user with us. Devashish, please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. So actually, I'm also a Zomato Gold user, but I've used it so extensively so far that I don't want to really claim for a refund kind of thing. But I really do also agree with the restaurants, because I feel if it was a really exclusive offer, they have actually offered it. The Zomato Gold has been offered to too many people, and the restaurants definitely will run into a loss because some of your items are really expensive, and you just give it off for free to somebody, and if there are more than two people and all, and, it's a big loss to the restaurant.
It's nice to know you're sympathetic towards the restaurant. You understand the losses that they're running in, but do you also feel that Zomato right now, if you are a Zomato Gold user, you should be refunded by Zomato because you've already paid for that subscription?
I don't really think I should be refunded because the amount I have paid for the membership, and I've enjoyed so many of the free meals. I think I've recovered that amount well in advance, So I don't think they should repay me the money back. I really don't think so. But I just think they should start, if they should come to a amicable solution with the restaurants and restart the whole scheme again if the need be. But I think asking for a refund is a little going overboard. I feel. I think
All right. Okay. Thanks for calling us in. Riaz, please respond to that. Here's a user who also understands the plight of the restaurants, and no one's really being unreasonable about it. People have understood the logout campaign here, and it is entirely now for Zomato to fix this.
First of all, we deeply appreciate the thoughtfulness given towards the restaurant. Thank you so much. And as he said, he has received value for what he has given. So if this was a time-bound activity, if it was a slightly more, limited release, it would have worked out very well. What has happened is that it has become anytime, all the time, and given to anybody who's willing to pay, the Zomato subscription fees. So that has kind of lost what it was initially envisaged to be, the scheme. When it was initially pitched to us, it was a great idea. We were all for it. But suddenly it's just become this kind of, free for all, where it's become this big party where somebody has to pay the bill at some point of time. And unfortunately, restaurateurs has come to a point where they had no other option, because not only have our bottom lines disappeared, our top line has also shrunk by 30%. And, rentals are not going down, food costs are not going down, labor costs are only going up. So anyway, the restaurant margins are weak.
We get that argument. I'm afraid we'll have to leave it at that. But appreciate all the voices who have spoken to us here on this. Of course, given Zomato's huge subscription base, this is an issue that affects a lot of people watching as well. Amita, our correspondent as well, thank you for getting us those